Harold was 73, widowed, lived alone, same bed, same chair, same evening routine. Every night before sleep, he did something quiet, familiar, something he'd done since he was 19. Masturbation wasn't strange to him. It was his way of calming down, of feeling something. But that night was different. After just a few minutes, his heart began racing. His chest tightened. A strange coldness spread through his legs. Then, everything went blurry. He collapsed, half naked, beside his bed. Harold didn't die that night, but he lost something just as valuable. He lost trust in his own body. And here's the most shocking part. It wasn't the act of masturbation that caused it, it was the way he did it and what he never knew about how the body changes after 60. You see, most older men carry on using the same habits they learned in their 20s. The same strokes, the same timing, the same expectations. But what no one tells them is this. After 60, your body plays by a different set of rules. What used to feel like a release may now quietly drain your strength. What once helped you sleep might now trigger insomnia. What once made you feel alive could now leave you numb, confused, or even ashamed. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because when done with understanding, masturbation can actually become one of the most powerful tools for aging men to protect their prostate, improve circulation, ease loneliness, and reclaim emotional intimacy with themselves. In this video, I'm going to share 5 little-known truths that could completely change the way you view your body, your desires, and your future. And if you're over 60 or love someone who is, this might be the conversation no one else dared to have with you. Until now, what happened to Harold that night wasn't random. It wasn't a freak accident. It wasn't just old age catching up. It was the result of something he, like most men his age, had been doing the same way for over 50 years. He had never changed how he touched himself. He never paused to ask if his body had changed the way it responded. Ever imagined that something so familiar could slowly become harmful? But here's the truth no one ever told him, or maybe even you. Your body after 60 doesn't follow the same rules. Not for sleep, not for digestion, and certainly not for sexuality. Yet most men continue to treat their bodies like they're stuck in their 20s. They masturbate the same way. Same speed, same grip, same goal. It becomes mechanical, autopilot, a routine more than a ritual. And at first, nothing seems wrong. But over time, they start to notice subtle changes. They're more tired after, the sensation fades quicker, their arousal feels forced, and eventually even their erection, once automatic, becomes hesitant, confused, unreliable. But instead of asking why, most men do what they've always done. They blame themselves. They think something's broken, that maybe they've lost their manhood, that aging has robbed them of one more thing they love. But what they don't realize is this: it's not their body that's failing. It's the outdated habits that are sabotaging them. Let me explain. As men age, 3 major systems shift, and all of them affect how masturbation impacts your health. First, your nervous system slows down. What once triggered a strong sexual response now takes longer. It's not because you're less of a man. It's because your sensory threshold has changed. Rushing, squeezing, or forcing it, that overwhelms your nerves instead of exciting them. Second, your circulation isn't what it used to be. Your blood vessels aren't as elastic, so when you stimulate yourself aggressively, you're creating stress, not flow. It's like trying to blast water through a worn-out garden hose. You end up with pressure, not pleasure. And third, your brain chemistry no longer reacts the same way. When you were young, novelty triggered a surge of dopamine. But now, the same routine doesn't light up your brain like before. That's why many older men feel numb, unsatisfied, or even disconnected after climax. And yet, they never talk about it. Because who do you ask about something so private? Most doctors don't bring it up. Friends don't mention it. And for many men, it becomes easier to just accept the silence and quietly wonder if they've become invisible, even to themselves. But silence has consequences. Over time, these men grow distant from their own bodies. They stop touching themselves with care. They disconnect from their emotions. And that quiet act that once brought relief becomes another reminder of aging, loneliness, and loss. It doesn't have to be this way. Because here's what most men don't know. Masturbation, when done with understanding and awareness, can become a form of medicine. It can support your prostate health and improve blood flow, balance your nervous system, ease anxiety, improve sleep, even rebuild a sense of connection to yourself and to life. But only when you stop treating your body like a machine and start honoring it as the wise, sensitive, beautiful thing it still is. You wouldn't rev a classic car engine the way you drive a sports car at 25. You warm it up, you take your time, you listen for feedback. Your body deserves the same. Harold never got that memo. And honestly, neither did most of the men I've worked with over the last 30 years. But when they do, when they finally understand how their body's pleasure has changed, everything shifts. Suddenly they realize they're not broken. They've just been using old instructions for a body that's evolved into something more subtle, more emotional, more powerful than they ever imagined. And when they learn how to meet their body where it is, instead of where it used to be, they don't just get their pleasure back, they get themselves back. Harold thought he was the only one. The only man who felt a little empty after climax. The only one who noticed his body didn't respond the same way anymore. The only one who couldn't quite explain why something that used to bring him peace now brought him silence. But he's not alone. I've sat with men in their 60, 70, even 80s. Men who built families, careers, lives of quiet strength. And when the doors close, when it's just the two of us in a private room, the stories begin to spill out. Not stories of failure, but stories of confusion, of shame, of wondering. Like Howard, 76 years old, a retired Navy man, broad shoulders, steady hands, but eyes that looked hollow. He told me, "Doc, I don't feel anything anymore. I still do it, out of habit, but I don't even know why." For him, masturbation had become a ritual, not for pleasure, but for sleep. A quiet escape, a way to pass time, not feel connected. Or Roy, 71, who hadn't been with anyone since his wife passed 12 years ago. When he finally met someone new, someone who made him smile again, he was thrilled and terrified. When they touched, his body didn't respond. He said, "It's like my body forgot how to want. And I felt like I failed her." Or Ernest, 68, who'd started watching porn every night. It began as comfort, a stand-in for connection. But within months, he couldn't feel anything unless there was a screen involved. He told me, "I didn't even realize how numb I'd become. Not just physically, emotionally too." And then there's Walter, 74. He hadn't touched himself in years. not since his wife died. He believed it wasn't appropriate, that maybe it wasn't even allowed anymore. But over time, he grew restless, irritable, sad, without knowing why. Until one night, he sat quietly, placed his hand gently on his chest, not between his legs, and wept. He said, "I didn't know I was still allowed to feel anything." Each of these men thought they were the only one. They weren't, and neither are you. Maybe you've felt yourself drifting through the motions, doing it out of habit, not because it feels alive, but because it fills a space. Maybe you've noticed your erection isn't as reliable, and you're scared to admit it, even to yourself. Maybe you've turned to the same kind of videos every night, hoping they'll spark something, and wondering why they don't anymore. Maybe you've felt like your body is betraying you. Or maybe, just maybe, you've stopped touching yourself altogether. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't know how to anymore. Let me say this clearly, gently, and with all the respect in the world. You're not broken. You're not alone. And you're not the only one trying to figure this out in silence. No one prepared you for this part of aging. No one taught you how to navigate the emotional shifts, the hormonal changes, the rewiring of your nervous system. But that doesn't mean you're stuck, because once you realize that your body isn't failing, it's just evolving, something softens inside. The guilt loosens, the shame fades, and in its place, a quiet kind of curiosity returns. That's where healing begins, not with a prescription, not with a performance, but with a moment of truth, one that whispers, "I'm still here, and I want to feel something again." And if that's where you are, then you're not behind. You're right on time. So far, we've looked at what changed, the decline in sensation, the disconnect, the unspoken fears. But now, it's time to see what's possible. Because the truth is, your body still works. It's just waiting for you to meet it where it is, not where it used to be. And once you understand how that body has evolved, you'll realize that pleasure, connection, and healing are still within reach. Let me walk you through 5 truths most men never hear, but every older man deserves to know. And I don't just say this as a doctor, I say this as someone who has witnessed transformation, not just in health, but in identity. When a man learns to treat his body not like a broken tool, but like a wiser, more responsive companion. Truth 1. Your erection is no longer the full story, and that's okay. For decades, men have equated masculinity with performance. If it stands, you're strong. If it doesn't, something's wrong. But this idea is a lie, one that has quietly crushed the confidence of millions. Because here's the biological reality. Erections are only one part of sexual function. Orgasm and erection are not the same system. And while erections may become slower or softer with age, orgasmic capacity often remains intact. In fact, some men report deeper emotional release even with less physical rigidity because the pressure is gone. The need to prove disappears, making room for something more real. Presence. 2. Self-pleasure is not just sexual, it's neurological, hormonal, and emotional. Studies from the Mayo Clinic and AARP have confirmed what thousands of men already feel but can't explain. Masturbation in older age can regulate mood, reduce cortisol, release oxytocin, and help rebalance your nervous system after stress. It's not about lust, it's about grounding. It's about reconnecting with your senses, especially when the world feels distant or flat. Just like Harold, who'd used the same routine every night for decades, many men fall into patterns they never revisit. But when Harold slowed down, changed his breathing, and began feeling instead of finishing, something remarkable happened. His sleep improved, his energy lifted, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel hollow after. He felt human. Truth 3, use it or lose it isn't a scare tactic, it's biological fact. The tissues in the penis, just like muscle fibers, joints, or lungs, require engagement to stay responsive. When sexual activity stops for months or years, blood flow declines, elasticity weakens, and nerve signaling fades. It's not dysfunction, it's disuse. And sadly, most men discover this only after it's already started to take effect. Like Roy, who spent 10 years alone after his wife passed. When he finally met someone new, his body felt numb. He thought he was broken, but he wasn't. He was just disconnected. With gentle, consistent stimulation, even just on his own, Roy began to rebuild that connection. Not overnight, but with time, his responses returned, his confidence grew, and intimacy felt possible again. Truth 4, porn may be silently retraining your brain to reject real pleasure. This one's hard to hear, but too important to ignore. Modern streaming pornography delivers an endless stream of novelty, intensity, and visual shock. It floods your brain with dopamine, far beyond what normal human touch provides. And over time, this rewires your pleasure system. Your brain begins to associate arousal only with high-intensity imagery. Touch, scent, memory, the things that once excited you, become too quiet. Your system starts craving the extreme while rejecting the natural. This is called arousal fatigue, and I've seen it in men as young as 55 and as old as 85. Ernest, 68, watched porn nightly for comfort, but within a year he couldn't respond to real intimacy at all. Even hugs from loved ones felt emotionally distant. When he stopped, slowly with support, and replaced it with breath, touch, and memory, his brain began to recalibrate. He felt more. He remembered more. He came back to life. Truth 5. Masturbation, done with care, can support your physical health and even lower cancer risk. A study from Harvard in 2016 found that men who ejaculated 21 times per month had a 33% lower risk of developing prostate cancer. Why? Because ejaculation clears out old seminal fluid, supports prostate function, and promotes pelvic circulation. But more than that, regular, mindful masturbation improves sleep, boosts immune health, reduces blood pressure, and enhances emotional stability. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds a man that his body still belongs to him, that he is not invisible, not obsolete, and not done. These 5 truths aren't prescriptions. They're invitations to pause, to listen, to reconnect, and maybe, just maybe, to discover that your pleasure doesn't have to shrink as you age. It just has to evolve, because your body hasn't stopped working. It's simply asking to be treated with the respect, gentleness, and presence it always deserved, but maybe never received. And when you meet it there, everything changes. It was a Tuesday night when Walter sat down in the dark. He wasn't planning to do anything. No video, no lotion, no expectations. He just felt something stirring. He had gone nearly 6 years without touching himself. Not because he didn't have the desire, but because he thought that part of his life was over. He believed he had crossed an invisible line. He had lost his wife. He had lost his rhythm. And in many ways, he had lost permission. But that night, something inside him whispered, "You're still here. You still matter." So he sat, quietly, his one hand on his chest, the other resting near his belly. No rush, no performance, just breath. And for the first time in years, he cried. Not because he was sad, but because he finally felt something real. Because he remembered that he was allowed to be a man, not in a sexual sense, but in a human one. Someone with desire, with softness, with memory and longing and aliveness still pulsing in his skin. That moment wasn't about climax. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about coming home to himself. Now, I don't know where you are in your journey. Maybe you still touch yourself every few days, but you're starting to feel less. Maybe you've stopped altogether. Maybe you use porn but wish you didn't. Maybe you feel like it doesn't even matter anymore. That your body has closed that chapter for good, but what if it hasn't? What if everything you thought was gone is just waiting for you to meet it in a new way? What if your body isn't asking you to give up, but to begin again, not from shame, not from obligation, but from curiosity? So here's my gentle invitation to you. Take 3 days, not to avoid pleasure, but to pause the old habits. 3 days with no videos, no fast movements, no expectation. Instead, take a warm shower. Breathe slowly. Touch your body with no agenda, as if it were someone you loved. Not just your genitals, your chest, your shoulders, your thighs, your hands. Listen to what comes up. Is it loneliness? Is it boredom? Is it grief you've never spoken? Write it down, or just sit with it. Then ask yourself this: what would it feel like to touch myself not to finish, but to feel? Because that shift from finishing to feeling is where the healing begins. You don't have to be ready to change everything. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need one moment where you're present with yourself, honestly. That's it. And if you're willing to try even just once, leave me a single word in the comments. Pleasure. Not because you owe me anything, but because it's a quiet declaration to yourself that you showed up, that you dared to pause, that you chose connection over routine. And maybe, just maybe, someone else will see your word and feel a little less alone in their journey too. Now that you've paused, now that you've asked the hard questions, what comes next? This is the moment where insight becomes action, where awareness turns into practice, where you begin not by trying harder, but by trying differently. What I'm about to share isn't a strict routine or medical protocol. It's something I call the 3-week reconnection practice, a simple, gentle way to rebuild your relationship with your body through presence, not pressure. It's designed specifically for older men, for men whose bodies have changed, for men who are no longer looking to perform, but to reconnect, to feel, to return. And the beauty of it is, it only takes 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. Let's begin. Week 1, relearn the body without touching the genitals. Yes, you read that right. The first week is about not going there. It's about restoring presence to the rest of you. Because for too long, pleasure has been focused on one outcome, one area, one finish line. And the rest of the body, your shoulders, chest, arms, thighs, has been forgotten. So here's your practice. Set aside 30 minutes. Choose a time when you won't be rushed. Morning between 9 and 11, or early evening between 5 and 7 are ideal. Testosterone levels are steadier. Energy is softer. The house is quieter. Begin by sitting or lying down somewhere private. Take 10 slow breaths. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Let your body settle. Now, take your hands and explore slowly. Run your fingers over your neck, your collarbones, your belly. Feel the texture of your skin. Notice warmth, coolness, tightness, ease. Don't rush. Don't aim for excitement. Just notice. If emotion arises, sadness, longing, even discomfort, stay with it. That's not a sign of failure. That's a sign of feeling, and that's the goal. Do this 2 or 3 times during the week. That's it. Week 2, awaken, touch with intention, and lubricant. This week, we begin to include the genitals, but not as a goal, as part of a whole. Start again with breath and gentle, full-body awareness. Then, use a high-quality lubricant. Silicone-based works best for older skin. Warm a small amount in your hands. Then, place your hand around your penis, not to stroke, but to hold. Just hold. Feel the weight. Feel the temperature. No movement yet. When ready, explore these 3 techniques. The encompassing palm. A slow, full hand grip, gentle pressure, minimal movement. The gland circles. Using 2 fingers to trace small, slow circles around the head, this awakens nerve endings without overstimulation. The root touch. Massage the base and the perineum, the soft area between scrotum and anus, using gentle pressure. This improves pelvic circulation and resensitizes buried nerve paths. Don't rush toward climax. Stay curious, stay soft, stay present. Do this twice during the week. If arousal builds naturally, allow it. If not, no problem. The goal is not release, the goal is reconnection. Week 3, merge sensation with breath and imagination. By now, your body may already feel different, more awake, more responsive, more known. This week is about combining everything: breath, touch, and memory. Start again with relaxation. Then begin stimulation using any technique that feels good. This time, match it to your breath. Inhale during the stroke. Exhale during the pause. Then, invite your imagination. Not a video, not an image, a memory. A moment that once made your heart flutter. A time when you felt wanted, connected, safe. Let that memory guide your touch. If climax comes, let it come gently, without urgency, without force. Afterward, don't rush to clean up. Lie still. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Ask yourself one simple question. What did I feel that I haven't felt in a while? Write it down, even just a word. Do this 2 or 3 times this week. That's the entire practice. No pills, no devices, no complicated instructions. Just you, your breath, your memory, your willingness to return, not to who you were at 25, but to who you are now. If you have arthritis, try this after a warm shower. If you are on ED medication, align the session with its peak effect. If you live with family, use a lock, soft music, and dim lighting to carve out your sanctuary. This is not indulgence. This is medicine. This is maintenance. You brush your teeth. You stretch your back. You check your blood pressure. This is how you tend to the part of you that still longs to be touched, still wants to feel, still knows how to respond, if you only give it time. And if you're wondering, can I really do this? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. Not perfectly, not every time, but gradually, gently, consistent, because this isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming back to yourself. That night, Harold sat again on the edge of his bed. But this time, it wasn't out of habit. It wasn't to get it over with. It wasn't because of loneliness or stress. It was something quieter, something more sacred. He had followed the practice. Not perfectly, not without hesitation, but with just enough softness to feel himself again. And as he sat there, no rush, no goal, he placed one hand on his chest and whispered, "Welcome back," not to someone else, to the version of him he thought was gone, the part that still felt, the part that still mattered. And I wonder, as you reach this final moment in our conversation, is there a part of you whispering the same? Maybe it's been years since you felt truly alive in your body. Maybe you've been doing everything you were told, eating right, staying active, seeing your doctor. But still, something felt missing. Touch, connection, that subtle, invisible thread between who you were and who you still are. Let me say this clearly. From one human to another, you are not too old. You are not out of time. You are not done. Your body may have changed, but your right to feel, to explore, to enjoy, to heal, that has not expired. Pleasure isn't something you age out of. It's something you evolve into. You no longer chase intensity. You crave meaning. You crave presence. And in that shift, you unlock something most men never discover at 25. The quiet beauty of being fully with yourself. So if you've made it here, all the way to the end, I want to thank you. Not just for watching, but for listening, for staying open, for being willing to see your body, your past, and your future with new eyes. That's rare, it's powerful, and that deserves to be honored. You've learned the truths. You've seen the science. You've met the stories. Now the question is simple. What will you do differently starting tonight? Not perfectly, not all at once. Maybe you'll light a candle instead of turning on a screen. Maybe you'll place a hand over your heart before you reach for your body. Maybe you'll slow down, or breathe more deeply, or touch yourself with just a little more kindness. Or maybe you'll do nothing right away, and that's okay too, because the seed has already been planted. And when you're ready, it will grow. So I leave you with this. Tonight, before sleep, take 30 seconds, no agenda, just silence. Place your hand over your chest. Breathe once and say gently, even in your mind, you're still here. Because you are. And that matters more than anything. If this spoke to you, if something softened or stirred, I invite you to leave a single word in the comments. Alive? That one word could be the reminder someone else needs to believe in their own journey. And maybe, together, we begin to break the silence. One voice, one story, one quiet return at a time.